welcome to episode 4 of Catching Up with Joe Howe, the podcast no one asked for or expected. I'm your host, Joe, and today we are catching up with Coach Greg Carter. All right, Coach. We'll get into it first
Oh, let's
from
get it started off right. Welcome.
yes.
Welcome to my home.
Thanks for joining me, Coach. Thanks for inviting me over your
Yes,
house.
sir.
Lovely little house.
Love it here.
Nice little countryside, almost within the city.
Yeah, little country, little cities, perfect place.
Technically Georgetown, right?
Right. It's the actually we're not in the city, but our mailing address.
Yep.
We're right where Georgetown, Round Rock, and Hutto all come together.
Like the Golden
Just on the
Triangle.
other side of that road is Round Rock.
Like just the little country road right there.
Yeah.
So you got Round Rock across the street,
Yeah,
and
and then
Hutto
Hutto's just on the
other side of the highway, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's not far from like Hutto High School and all that.
No, most of the kids around here go to Georgetown ISD, but there's a person down there. His son actually went to Hutto, and so I think this is an area that's kind of unencumbered. So they might be in somebody's district, but they give them options.
Yeah, kind of like the Andice general area.
Right.
Where it's
And
like
that's a great example because Andice, you kind of got to choose where you wanted to go.
yeah, like we were zoned in Florence, but then like up the road they could pick Liberty Hill or Georgetown,
Mm-hmm.
depending on which side of the road you were on.
Liberty's got such a big. I mean, they're a huge district. Leandra ISD is a huge district. Those are really large.
Yeah, like my wife's cousin had a kid that played against Liberty Hill a couple years ago, so we went out to that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like
their new one.
Yeah,
that's a nice stadium.
Like we're driving and like I go to the old one. Like we get there and there's nobody there. I'm like, did they build a new stadium? So I had to call Jeff. I called Jeff. He's like, yeah, they built that a long time ago.
Just keep on going down 29. You'll see it.
I was like, oh,
you can't miss it.
Yeah, that's what Jeff said. He's like, you can't miss it at all. So we start getting close. I see the lights. I'm like, oh wow, this is huge.
Oh, much bigger. I mean, I remember we played. I guess last time we played was at that old stadium.
Yep.
And it was even an old stadium back then. But of course, it had all the neat little things that old stadiums have. You know, everybody knew the nooks and crannies. And I guess at that time, or for a while there, Florence and Liberty Hill kind of had, you know, they played each other in different sports. And apparently, I guess at one time they were in the same district, but then Liberty Hill started growing and Florence had.
Yeah, that was like in the early '90s that they were in the same district, like '90, like when my oldest brother was in school, like in '94-ish.
Yeah, there was that one team that was really good before your brother's team came along, and they won quite a few games. And I think the only game they lost was at Liberty Hill. So.
Yeah, it was like '92. I think they missed the playoffs because that's when they did like who across the 50 more for a tiebreaker, and they lost the tiebreaker.
Oh man, I remember when I'm old enough. I remember when only the district champ made the playoffs.
Yep.
And man, to be a district champ, that was everything. Nowadays, district champ's kind of like, that's nice. But you still get, 2 or possibly 3. Some of these districts get 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's like 3 or 4, right? Mm-hmm. That's crazy, but
it's kind of good though. Everybody gets it. I mean, it feels really good to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but some of these districts have like 9 teams now.
I always thought they went ahead and made a 6A, right? But they didn't really, in my mind, diffuse it as much as they were supposed to. Go ahead and create, I don't know if you would call it a Super 6 or what, because 6A, you've got these huge Round Rock High School, Allen High School type 6As, and you've got 6As that are barely bigger than 5A. There's a huge disparity there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, somebody smarter than me can figure it out. But I think that in 6A, and I think 3A is the other one, you have really, really large disparities.
Yeah, because I know like Florence is 3A still, or now, I guess.
I went and saw them play the other day. Andrew's back in town, and we go to different, we've gone to different schools, different stadiums, and we went up there, and there's Florence. There they were. It's getting back after it. I was listening. I heard the fight song, their school song, brought back good memories.
I saw somebody post on Facebook. Their band's apparently decent.
Oh yeah,
like it's small but good.
When I got there, Daniel Havens was there. When I left, Daniel Havens was this tall, skinny senior kid. Now he's all full grown man. At first, I didn't recognize. Oh my God, it's Daniel Havens. But it's kind of the same. I don't think it's necessary. The city hadn't necessarily grown. I think probably outside of it maybe it's grown, but 3A is 2A.
Yeah.
So it really hasn't, population-wise, the students hasn't changed that much.
Yeah, I see that they're struggling a little bit this year.
Yeah, well,
it happens.
It does.
Especially when you have those small towns when nobody new's moving in.
And... the thing is, like in a small town, a lot of times if you don't have these families that keep feeding it, then you'll have a good year. You got to wait 3 or 4 years, then you'll have a good year. Got to wait like that.
Wait till like the middle brother and the younger brother get there.
Now, Daniel said that his son is, I believe, in eighth grade this year.
I think so, yeah.
And I actually know about 2 or 3 kids that are in that class, and they all feel like that class is really strong. So remember Andy Moss?
Yep.
His son, I think it's his son. There was a Moss, and he's really fast. So I'm thinking it's Andy Moss's son. He was playing that night. But they're saying that bunch is going to be freshmen next year. They got a lot of hope on. So it might be one of those years. Hang on.
Yeah, I mean, it's only up from where they're at.
Yeah. I guarantee you, as a coach, I know. I mean, I don't know that coach personally. Coach Draper, I think his name is. But I guarantee it. I've never known a coach that worked harder when they were winning than they were losing. When you're losing, you're busting your hump. You're finding every potential advantage. You're looking at every. I mean, I guarantee he's watching their defensive line. Okay, who's the weakest defensive lineman? Who's the guy that I can run out on third and short? Sometimes you got the hosses, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, you had some pretty decent teams there in Florence.
Yeah.
You were in Florence for how long?
I was there 9 years.
9 years? And you started like in...
Oh, gosh. It was 99 or 2000, one of those. I think it was 99. Yep.
So it was probably a couple bad years, and you had
some great
the
kids,
run of good
had some
years.
Great families, worked some really, really good coaches. Yeah, sometimes we're successful, sometimes we weren't less successful. But I always loved the way that the Florence kids would just fight. Yeah, they were. I guess it was that small town upbringing, but it was never. I never had to worry about them kind of tucking tail and taking an ass whooping. I guess I shouldn't say that.
No, you can cuss. It's all right.
But they. Matter of fact, I had this one picture frame, and the team had only won like 2 or 3 games, but I put on there never gave up, never gave in, because that particular team hadn't won any games in junior. 7th, 8th grade hadn't won any games, and you could tell their freshman year they were going to struggle. Well, finally it was their senior year, and they fought, and the thing that really made me think about how hard they were playing was there was only one game in the fourth quarter they weren't within 2 scores. If you're keeping it close, even though you're really out talented, but you're fighting and you're doing things right and you're keeping it close. If you can keep it close, you're going to score 2 in the fourth quarter. You got a shot. And there was only one game that in fourth quarter we weren't even in, but every other game they were out there at it.
And that's the way it was my junior year. With the was it Eric Clemens and Jake Ragsdale and all them were the seniors.
I don't think that was that the same year.
I think we went 2-8 that year. I think. Because I remember we beat Bartlett in the opener, and we beat Lago Vista whenever we played them.
I might have been in, but
and then we were in pretty much every game.
I
think like the Somerville game that year, we lost by 1 point because we had a flag on an extra point, and then we ended up missing it. And then a couple other games, it was like 7, 14 points.
Yep. I think that was the year, and that was I posted. As a matter of fact, I think you said Eric Clemens. I think that was the year, because man, that team fought and fought and fought. And every game was close to the end, except for one. I won't talk about that, but that particular team deserved to have a picture frame because there's no quitting.
I think there was 2 or 3 that year that weren't close.
Well, maybe I don't. The year I'm thinking.
Because Rogers that year blew us out. Lexington blew us out.
Was really, really good that year.
And then Comanche, I think, beat us by like 15 or 20. No, Comanche, that was the 44-0 game.
Was that?
That was at Comanche.
Year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well.
Yeah, because that was when Jonathan Robbins got a concussion and he was just sitting on the sideline the rest of the game. It was like early in the first half. I just remember him just sitting on the bench, like trying to find a helmet.
The thing that's kind of weird about concussions is like now we understand, what an injury they really are. I can remember as a kid, someone say, "I got a concussion." I say, "Oh, thank God, it's just a concussion." We didn't know. "Oh, well, Mom, it's okay. It's a concussion. I'll be good. Give me a drink of water. I'll get right back out there."
Not no more.
No. People have gotten smarter about things like that.
Yeah, like the helmets and stuff are all safe now.
Yeah, and something that's good. I think some of the rules, maybe like the targeting rule, I'm not crazy about. If you have the ability to go back and review it, then maybe you can kick some out. But they don't have that ability. So to me, targeting should be, if you want to call it a penalty. But I don't like the deal about kicking kids out of a game or grown men out of a game for that matter. I think that if you did it, you get penalized. If your coach wants to take you off the field,
it's basically treat it like a personal foul. If you get 2, you're done.
Yeah, Or you know something. Here's the deal: targeting. If that's something you kick somebody out, think about this: high-low blocks. High-low blocks hurt more people than those targeting blocks do. Why don't you kick somebody out for that? Now those high-low, man, not thing got me wanting to cuss and discuss with officials, but a high-low block where you're engaged, somebody comes chops you down low. No, that's just dirty.
That and the blindside block.
We were talking about that. Blindside blocks. If you never got blindsided, you would understand. I got blindsided one time, and man, from that point on, if there was some interception, some kicker, I'm like looking around and say,
keep your head on a swivel.
You got to keep your head on a swivel because, man, yeah, that's another kind of block that I'm okay with them, kind of throwing a flag on because you could get just laid out. Yeah. I was at Hendrickson. We had this big old 300-pound plus offensive tackle. And we threw an interception, and they're running. And this kid, I think it was Marble Falls, he was running back, and this kid just laid him out. I mean, you saw his whole body snap the other direction. He went down, he crumpled. Of course, he didn't get up. They got out there and eventually got up. But man, he knocked him smooth out, and he didn't come back to this game. I don't think he could.
Is that one of those like back in like the 80s? They would have put that on highlight film.
Back in the 80s, yeah, run it again.
Back when like NFL had like their hard knocks or not hard knocks, hard hits or whatever.
Hard hits videos. Yeah, I still like watching those videos. I mean, the kind of football that I grew up with and I was coached was all about physical domination. It was a whole lot less about scheming. It's about line up and pound somebody into submission. And as times have gone on, I guess people decide that that's maybe a little too much, and they've changed it. I had to change with the times too. Because it's influence, and I was seeing the difference occurring. But I'd grown up where it was all about physical. On third and short, you always just mash it in the middle, prove you're more. But then when I left there, eventually ended up with a team that really threw the ball and threw really effectively, and it kind of opened my eyes up. On third and short, if they're going to put 8 people in the box, they'll throw a slant to Havens. That's a first down. Or just throw a stop route to your number 2 receiver and let him go get 3 yards. And it was like I had this whole mentality about you got to force the other team into submission. But then the book kind of opened up and I changed my mind a little bit. I still believe in physical dominance. I think that football is you dominate the offensive or defensive line. But there are times if they're selling out to stop the run. Take the easy one. Take the easy yards or find a different way.
Yeah, I think that's why you see a lot of like quick screens and bubble screens now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times they'll say when you see those guys when they receive, they're bringing the house. Mm-hmm. It seems like one of the easy checkouts, so a bubble screen. And when I was at Vista, we played Lake Travis, and they were really good. And the Garrett, what's his name? The kid up in New York Jets.
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson. Did you ever see that guy like in person?
No.
Okay, he's not a skinny guy. He looks like a tailback. And basically what they did, instead of putting the tailback back where everybody had shot him, they were taking the best side and put him out there one-on-one with who may be your 4th or 5th best ass. You might have a senior stud, and that's a sophomore who's filling in.
Yeah.
So all they had to do was break one tackle. And all of a sudden, that kind of opened up people's eyes, opened up my eyes anyway about, there's a lot of yards out there. If you can, now it's about, instead of, physically dominate somebody at the line, now you look for matchups. You look for schemes, okay? These guys who put that guy on an island, he better be their best corner. If he's not, we're fixing on either getting a first down.
It's almost like the Mike Leach thing back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Mike Leach was actually the offense that we ran my last couple of years at Vista. And that was a deal where, we're all sitting down talking. We had this really good quarterback coming in as a freshman. We said, okay, now this guy's going to be a different kind of quarterback. And we all sat down and said, now listen, there's going to be times it's 3rd and short, 4th and short. We're going to throw the ball. And you got to be okay with that. And it kind of just opened up your brain about, okay, yeah, that does make, because there's plenty of times and plenty of schools have been on 3rd down and short, and it became just a macho man kind. It came down to, we're going to bust you, you're going to bust us. And there's a certain poetry to that about all the offseason, about all the work. And when it comes, when the chip's on the table, you're able to get that first down. You're able to physically impose your will upon the other team. But if it's out there one-on-one and your best athlete is out there and you can get it to him, that you've got sometimes a better shot of getting that first down than just trying to jam down somebody's throat. It was you kind of, or I kind of had to evolve a little bit, because it was just pound, be physical. And as I learned, as I went to different places, I said, okay, there's more than just one answer. There's more than just one way to get that first down.
So like going from Florence, was that like your first head coaching job?
Hmm. Yeah, first head football coach. I'd been a head track coach before, but that was my first head football coach. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I look back at Florence, and I have some of my best memories. I loved Florence. I still love Florence.
Yeah,
I had a good stay
it's a
there.
special area.
It is. It's a great place. I mean, I think about, when I think about Florence, I do. I mean, I think about the school stuff, but I think about the families I got to know. I don't know if it was just a special time, but the community was pretty close, and you got to meet a lot of different parents. You know, parents would, I'd go down to D Boons or something like that. I'd be sitting down, and somebody'd come sit down across from me. They'd want to talk about football. And, we'd okay, sit on down. And you shook a lot of hands, and I got to see a lot of, athletes going up from even some in that Pee Wee football. I remember meeting some of those kids, but some of those kids I'd meet as seventh graders, sixth, seventh graders, I'd see them all the way through to their graduate. That's the beauty of staying in one place so long is you get to see those families, you get to know them. Some of those people are still like Facebook friends of mine. When I watched that Florence game, I saw Mandy Burson. And the Burson family, they were great up there. Andrew, he and Brett Adams got together a while back. So I mean, just a lot of those connections, those relationships you made, they really made that place special. I met a guy that had coached there at Florence, Reb Brock, and he's just, man, that guy's a hell of a coach. And I'm sure that
he's still doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's got to take a look at the mirror and decide what time it is. When it was time, I just knew. I said, I'm not going to sit there and fight because I'm going to talk myself out of it.
Yeah.
I just said, I think today's the day. I said, I need to make phone calls. I called that day, and I haven't regretted it. I've been able to spend a lot more time with my family, which is a huge part of it.
Yeah, especially after you're getting grandkids that are.
Oh yeah, I've got 7 grandkids now.
7?
7
from 3 kids?
No, between my wife and I. We our oldest is 10. And our youngest is just a couple months old. So I know you have a hard time believing this, but when my grandkids come over once they're able to, I show them the joy of doing chores out here. Oh, but I make a game out of it. So over there, that little barn over there, there's like weeds around the back. So I say, we got a competition. Who can chop the most weeds? And they're just, yeah. Or I got a compost pile. I say, okay, everybody's got a shovel, right? I'm going to give you all 15 seconds. Who can make the deepest hole in this compost? Well, they're turning my pile. They don't know, but they're just having a great time. So they come here, they do little chores, labor, climb trees, whatever.
Like, hey, since you're up in that tree, here's some cutters. Cut that branch off.
Well, as a matter of fact, Andrew's daughter Avery, that ash tree over there, she had told me that she was gonna, because she said, "Oh, it's all busy." I said, well, let's clip it. But then they had to go, so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna wait." And then Avery came back the next time, and she said. I said, "Are you ready to go cut?" She goes, "It's kind of hot." I said, I'm gonna show you. That's not so bad. We'll get in the shady part of the tree. So she cut a little bit, then she was ready. So I said, "Okay, instead of doing that, go pick up, what a mountain laurel, those bushes I got in front, the mountain laurel tree. Well, they have red bean seeds. Well, they were poisonous. So I told her about it. So I said, we're gonna pick those shoots. She goes, "Oh, the poisonous. They're not poison to eat." So we picked them all up, and then I let them soak for a couple of days, and then I planted them in those little. I can show you a little bit. They're cups over there, and now they're growing. And so she saw picking up the seeds, she saw it growing. So eventually I'm going to let her take a couple of those home, pick whichever she wants, and she can plant them. So they kind of have that whole cycle thing. You're doing seeds to a plant, you're putting in the ground, just kind of watch it grow. It's kind of a neat deal.
The science background.
Absolutely. The last class that I taught, I guess it was almost all 10 years when I was at Vista. I was teaching about self-sustained living. About doing things that's not waste and stuff like that. Man, I really enjoyed that class. It taught me a bunch of stuff about being wasteful, and I try not to. So I got that compost pile because if I got something biodegradable, I'll try to put it in there. The only thing, hopefully, the only thing I'm putting in the trash can is something that's metals or plastics. They don't really do anything as far as recycling goes. So I can compost up what I can.
Yeah, I remember your science class having to sit in the front, getting like slapped in the back of the head when I wasn't paying attention.
Imagine that. Used to be able, like I don't know about like the only ones you would ever do like slap somebody back was somebody like you like had a certain relationship, right? You couldn't do that to everybody.
Oh, you couldn't do that at all now.
Oh no. That, yeah. You know,
Someone could record that, you'd be all kinds of fired and lawsuits.
the you know the art of education is kind of like learning what buttons to push with kids, and what you can and can't do and stuff like that. And those rules have changed over the years. I can remember growing up. I'm Catholic, and I grew up. And there was a priest, and the priest had actually been in Vietnam, and so he talked to us like a pastor. Then he would talk one way, but then it was just us, a bunch of young guys and him. He talked a little gruffer. In those times, you kind of raise boys anyway to be talked to in a gruff way and not intimidate, not scare them. Well, now you really don't talk to me like that, and that is not acceptable, and that's just the way it is. My kids, I talk to a certain way. I want to raise a certain way, and so whether I was right or wrong, I don't know. But you do the best you can, kind of like coaching. And when I was coaching, I was kind of rough on you guys, but I always thought that it's kind of a little Jimmy Johnson thing: make practice hell so that games are easy. Well, as you're practicing, obviously is a great way to determine who your next year's leaders are. Who leads by example, who are the ones that people rally around. And if you can talk kind of roughly with a guy that the kids look up to and he responds, then everybody's going to respond. Nobody's going to take it personal.
And then you have to deal with the kids that have bad work ethic.
Well,
that was me.
Something you were just. I told you stuff when you were in school. I said you were just a really gifted athlete. Some people think that great athlete means you're fast. You were just exceptionally strong. I mean, for a kid your age and the weight you could push, you were kind of not a freak, but you were just you were very gifted in that way. Every kid has theirs. Some kids are fast, some kids are strong, some kids are smart. Quarterbacks. The thing that you look at like a quarterback, the ones that can and can't make it are the ones that can change. Get the wheels spin their ears, go quickly. When you drive, you got to get your pre-snap read, and then when the ball snapped, you got to make sure they're not shifting safeties, and you have to have a plan. Okay, if they stand in too high, this is the guy that's going to be open. If they roll a guy down, then this is probably the guy's going. It depends if they're going to cover 3 or man free or something like that. Anyway, but that's to me what you may have a Trey Lance type athlete, great athlete, but when I see him play, it looks like he has a hard time going from one receiver to the other receiver to the other receiver. And by the time he gets off the second receiver, he's either getting hit or he's having to pull it down.
Yeah.
You have the kid at San Francisco, Purdy. Man, you're talking about a guy that click, 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 click. Lamar Jackson, a guy that learned to go click, 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 and they learn get a pre-snap read. If they change that on the snap of the ball, then I got to know. If it's a man with heat, you got to have an answer. If you don't, you're about to get sacked. Anyway. Yeah, that's anyway, I was talking about everybody's got different kind of talents, and whether you're strong, fast, really quick between the ears, whatever it may be, able to take directions and follow it. Everybody's got a job to do. Everybody's got gifts. You just try to maximize them.
I just always hated the practice part of everything.
You what?
Hated the practice part of everything.
Something.
And then like the weight training and all that stuff.
Oh, you didn't like the weight training part? You didn't like off season?
Never. Hated every second of it.
So, well, that's because you didn't really have to work to get strong. There were a lot of guys that worked out twice as many hours as you did, and they never could get as strong as you were. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I remember doing like when it was like 70% or 80% or whatever, and like me putting something on the bar, you telling me to stop and just go adding some weight and like go. Cussing,
that's somebody else's 70%. That wasn't your 70%.
Cussing under my breath every time I would do something. But then look, 20 years later, here we are.
Wow,
chatting it up.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is like I would hope anyway that the kids that I pushed hardest, they realize I love them, and I hope that the kids I didn't push. That's always told my kids, and I said when I like some of the kids I was coaching, I said when I quit yelling at you, that's when you gotta get worried.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on your butt, I think you can do better. I got expectations of you. I said, if you're a kind of guy that I let just kind of whatever, then that means I moved on from you. It's obvious you're not ready to play.
You must have really liked some of us then.
Yes. I loved all of you guys because I was on all y'all's butts.
All right, Coach, let's get back to earlier Coach Carter.
Okay.
Moved around a little bit growing up, ended up in Lubbock, then ended up going to A&M.
Yep.
What was the decision on going to A&M?
Well, my dad had actually went to A&M. He got his PhD there, and while we were there, we kind of took on the Aggie lifestyle. And everybody talks about A&M being a cult. In a way, it is. It really is. And I say that with pride in that we
I'm glad one Aggie finally admits it.
we all know it. We just don't say it. No, I mean, but to me, a cult can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. By me, I'd say in a cult that we all pretty much fall in the same line, has same expectations of each other. We are. If the A&M yell leaders, they get everybody to get in line and say the same chants. Well, they have hand signals. You learn those hand signals. We're all doing them at the same time. I know it sounds very cultish, but to an Aggie, it's freaking awesome.
When you watch the videos, like the yell leader part looks really cultish, but
well, that's how they get everybody in the stadium to be on the same page, on the same chants and such as that.
I've told Jeff this for years, but A&M would probably is by far the best atmosphere for a football game in the state.
I've been to every stadium except for SMU's new one and U of H's new one, but I've been to every other one. And you know who has one of the most beautiful? Well, actually, it's two, because let me go and say Texas Tech just finished theirs.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get a chance to go there, freaking gorgeous, beautiful stadium.
But I'll try to stay out of Lubbock the rest of my life.
The other one is Baylor's. Have you ever been to Baylor Stadium?
Yeah, we've been there a couple times.
Oh my gosh! So we went there.
I put it off for years, but we finally went.
I don't know if they changed it. I guess we went there like it was maybe 12 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe 14 years ago.
McLean's still the same.
So the thing about that I really liked was the river, and they've got all those boats. So you can have the tailgate off a boat, and they had that huge picnic area where basically families were able to just kind of sit out there and do what they want to do. And then at night, that McLean Stadium looks like a UFO that's landed. It's very cool.
Some say it kind of looks like a toilet, but
well, a universal toilet.
I mean, if you look at it from like a drone picture where it's like away like from 35,
mm-hmm.
like it does kind of look like a toilet, but
well, they probably all do, all kind of bowl shaped.
Oh yeah, because it's bowl with that open end
mm-hmm.
that's facing, I guess, the south.
I haven't been to Texas Stadium since they remodeled it. But a friend of mine says he really likes the whole horns thing that they came running out of. TCU's, they remodeled some there. I went when I was living in Mesquite. We went to a couple games there. That was pretty cool. What's another good one? That's the best ones anyway.
Yeah, but the A&M was by far the best atmosphere during a game.
So my oldest granddaughter, Avery, I just talked about her. We took her to her first Aggie game this last weekend against Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like before, there's all that activity outside the stadium. There's, face painting and giveaways and blah, blah, blah. And there's music. And it's just this huge atmosphere. And then they open the gates, everybody goes in there. And so she was like looking around. I think she kind of got a little claustrophobic. She didn't realize how many people, because everybody's got the white towels and everybody's kind of the same chants and stuff like that. And she was looking up there, and I think she got a little overwhelmed. But then she kind of gathered herself over halftime. She came back second half. She was learning to sing the fight song, and I was teaching her the chants and those kind of things. Yes, the brainwashing has begun, without a doubt. You know that.
Start them young.
Oh yeah. No, but
I haven't been there since I was in 8th grade. I think the one time I've been to a game there. That was way before any of the renovations.
No, they've got. I mean,
back then it was still the best stadium atmosphere.
They've kind of changed, because they used to have the fanning out bowl, but now they're starting building on top of each other, so like it kind of traps that noise. And man, when that crowd gets cranked up, man, it is. I mean, to sit down like everybody's kind of like going like this. It was so loud down there. That Florida game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jeff said, because Jeff went to the Texas A&M game last year. He said it was crazy.
Like, well,
especially when
probably not as crazy when Texas got through whooping us. Not as much fun then.
When they do like the swinging.
Oh yeah,
because there's so many people there now.
And what'll happen is the band will start it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one they do at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. And so start the band playing, and the band stops, and the Aggies are singing, and in one voice, everybody's singing at the same time. It's really kind of gives me chills to sing, but it's very, very cool. I know, 100% Ag, never going to change.
I mean, you can't be ashamed of it now.
Oh no, and I went from there, and it's funny. One of the first jobs I interviewed with was down in Sugar Land. And of course, I'm kind of a smart ass kid out of college. And I'm walking in, there's this guy who's got these TC stuff up there. And he goes, He goes, he's looking at my resume. So he went to him and said, yeah, we beat TCU pretty good. You know, he wasn't laughing. I thought I was really being cute. And I think that probably at that point he said, yeah, let's just scratch this guy's name off. You're done.
Throw your little resume in the trash.
Yeah. So those people that are just learning, just starting resumes, don't be funny. Just go in there, be respectful, give them information. Don't try to be funny.
And so, did you go to A&M like thinking you wanted to be a coach?
No, actually, I went to A&M with the mindset of being a veterinarian. I'd actually, worked with some animals, worked in a vet clinic, stuff like that, and I was 100% for it. But then, like right before I went there, I kind of started questioning, "Is this what I really want to do?" But I'd done all that build-up work. I said, "Yeah." So I took a bunch of pre-vet stuff and animal science stuff, and it just wasn't. It just wasn't loving it. And so I talked to my dad, and my dad said, "Nobody said you had to be a veterinarian." And so I went in this thing called general studies where I could basically study whatever I wanted, just kind of find out what was interesting to me. I could study astronomy or outdoor education, whatever. And it just seemed like the education classes were the ones that kept getting my interest. And so I always say I didn't find education, education found me, because that was the stuff that always seemed to interest me. So that's what ended up getting me into coaching. You'll hear something funny. So I went to my first job was in Mesquite, and I'm interviewing, and the guy's talking about teaching and stuff like that. And he says, "Well, we've got this for the coaching staff." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, this is money you get paid to be coach." And I said, "I get paid to coach?" I was ready to coach. I didn't have to get paid. I was ready to go. Yeah, good luck with that nowadays. But no, it was. That's where my mind was. I wanted to teach and I wanted to coach, and I wanted to be a difference maker. And as a teacher, it doesn't matter who you are. I think that everybody that teaches somewhere along the line says, "I want to make a difference in somebody's life." You make as many as you can. Some kids you reach, some
You
kids
kind
you
of have
don't.
to have that mindset to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Some kids you're just not going to reach. Some you won't, but some you make a huge difference in their life, and those are the ones that you remember the most.
I'm sure you remember some of the bad ones too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, something's funny is like my last few years uh, as a coach. Sometimes they'd be those kids that are a little more energy, a little rowdy. They put in my class, which is fine. And I don't know if you remember, but in my class, I tend to have kind of discipline rules. Don't stand up, don't sit down, don't do anything without permission. You remember that stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, at the end of the year, some of those kids would come up. Some of the ones that were supposedly troubled kids would come up and thank me. He said, "Coach, you're the only one that ever made me do right." And so, you never know. Some kids just are looking for somebody to say, "Okay, these are our boundaries," and you can go all the way up to this one. Something I really think that, like, if parents or people don't ever give kids boundaries, then kids don't think they matter. If you stop somebody and say, "No, that's not okay," you're teaching them, and they're learning from it. If anything goes, then they don't have any boundaries, which means that nobody cares to give them boundaries, in my mind.
And so you went from you brief coaching history, and then we'll talk a little bit about each one
Sure.
if you want. So you started Mesquite, went to Galena Park, then Georgetown, then Florence, Hendrickson, then Troy, then Vista Ridge.
Yep. So Mesquite was my first one. I had driven around different places.
Was that back in like in the 60s,
No,
70s?
I graduated in the 80s. Probably was. I'm just lying. No, I drove around, and then a friend of mine that I'd gone to school with, she called me and she says, "Hey, have you tried Mesquite? I just got a job here." So I got a job there, and I was at Agnew Middle School. And I'm gonna tell you something. That was, when I first went there, I said, "Man, I need to go to high school." But in hindsight, one of the best things I ever did was spend like 5 years as a middle school coach, because you have to learn how to coach the littlest of things, the little things that when you get to high school you take for granted. How to tie your shoes sometimes. Why is that stance not very good? Little things like that. The little things about teaching too. It just those years were very formative years for me. Yeah, then I went to Galena Park. Now Galena Park High School. Now North Shore is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And North Shore, everybody knows about it. Galena Park High School, nobody knows about it. Galena Park High School was very inner city. I'm sorry. Um, you know, and when I was there, it was like 90% probably Hispanic, probably 7% black, and then a few spatterings of white kids there. And so what I had to learn there was, buttons to push. There are certain kids out of certain cultures that don't respond well to Coach Carter getting in your face. There really are. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. And so the thing that taught me there was, learning by their physical reactions, by their faces, what was working and what wasn't working. And that was a great growing experience for me there because I learned that while all kids that may have the same expectations, you can't take the same road to get there. I always want kids to do well, but some kids need to be treated a little different. They really do. Yeah, after I went to Georgetown, and they completely different. Pretty well off.
Probably 90% white kids.
Yeah, I mean it probably was. I hadn't thought about that, but pretty affluent. This was for any other high schools at this time. Georgetown was just kind of starting to grow some new subdivisions, but it's still pretty much people that have been in Georgetown for a generation or two.
Back when Georgetown was still good and had their old football field.
Well, they're still pretty good.
They tore down that field though.
They tore it up.
Was that the old one?
Oh, by the park.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where we used to play. Oh my gosh, that was one of the old stadiums that had so much character.
They still should have kept it.
Oh my gosh, that I remember the time that we played the Woodlands, and they had Mock. Chance Mock was a quarterback, and Amendola, not the little one, the older brother was there, and they were just loaded. Was that
the Amendola that played with the Patriots and everybody?
No, he was his older brother.
Oh.
But the same family. But they were just loaded as can be. And they came, they're like either ranked number 1 or 2, probably number 2 in the state. And they had this rock they put out there. And that was like all the kids. So as we're walking, we say, oh, nice rock, trying to pester them. So anyway, we get there, and I don't think they really took us serious. And we get there, and it's close. This goes overtime. We'll beat their butts in overtime, man. And that is just, I'll never forget that game because that was the first overtime I've ever been in. And their crowd had been really loud. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody hit the mute button. They were just eyes open, jaws open. And all these high school kids you never saw before, jumping over the stands, running on the field, crying. I can't believe it. Oh no, I had really, really good idea. As a professional, I grew some there. I was really lucky to work with some really good coaches there, really good kids there. Matt Dominguez went. I don't know if you know Matt Dominguez. He went to Georgetown. He went to Sam Houston because he was messing around with his grades, and Sam Houston got him in. But anyways, he sets all these records, goes and he plays a couple of years for Denver, but then he goes to Canada. He's a freaking legend up there. I mean, he's like one of the best all time. We had several players that were really good.
The only person I know from Georgetown that ever did it was Crosby.
So he was in the same class as Andrew. Yep, but he didn't play his freshman year. We actually had a different kid that was kicking. But then apparently once Crosby showed up, the other kid said, yeah, never mind. That dude. Now his sister was a trainer when I was there. And I had met his family. Yep, that's a really good family. It's the same kind of, really a lot of the same kind of relationships I had in Florence, I had in Georgetown. Is Georgetown were really good folks?
Yeah, because back then Georgetown was just a bigger version of Florence.
It really was. There wasn't a lot of people that had moved in yet. You had a lot of very traditional values.
Now it's crazy in Georgetown.
It's amazing how much has changed.
So many people, like so many subdivisions and stores, and
I mean, it's like we said before. If something doesn't grow, it dies. So I'm glad Georgetown is growing. I just hope like Williamson County used to be a leader in agriculture. Like more dairy products came out of this area than any other place. The Swartner, they still have the largest meat producing ranches in the United States. So still, I just hope that we don't ever lose that kind of identity. When developers come in, they've got a job, and that's to develop. They don't really worry about what's happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future. They just want to build that right there. And I think that people in the city, I don't know how. I guess you have to vote the right folks into city council, but we're responsible for saying, wait a minute, we're not going to forget. Sometimes they're so busy trying to please the people that are coming in, they forget about the people that have been here for generations. Anyway, Georgetown was really, really good. Really enjoyed my time here. Time for me to move on and move to Florence. And geez, I mean, like I said, that's some of my best memories. Really is. The relationships you had there. We had some really good years. Another one of the great memories I'll never have is that playoffs when we beat Johnson City. Mm-hmm. And Florence, you look up the stands, you got a bunch of big grown-up men, tough guys.
2001.
Do what?
2001.
I think it was 2001. And they were on the field, these tough, rough guys, bawling like babies. And man, that was just a great, great feeling right there.
Yeah, that was the first time Florence was in the playoffs in like 50 years or
Yeah.
something like that, 50 something years.
Well, we had just all the coaches that were a part of that staff were really good. We were lucky because we had a good mixture of linemen and skills. But anyway, yeah, that was a really magical year. We had some really great, I mean, I think about all the kids that went through there. We had some wins, we had some losses. You're going to talk about one of them later on. But the thing that I remember most is just the great feelings I had for the people of Florence. After that, it's time to move on, and I went to Hendrickson. And man, you talk about working with some of the most talented kids I've ever been around. Samaje Perine that
Hmm.
plays for, was it Cincinnati still?
Uh,
Anyway, he's up there somewhere.
he might be
He
with Houston
When I first saw him,
because Houston signed one of the running backs from that division that's
they
hurting.
got to
That's hurting
Chubb,
them.
was it?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's probably at some.
I know he's
Cincinnati
still playing somewhere. Maybe have you played Washington for a while? And then it was Cincinnati.
I don't keep checking NFL too much.
Yeah, I'm more of a college football guy. But anyway, he was one of many just incredible athletes. There were guys that were backup, second or third teamers that could have started for almost anybody else. That year, that was where but most of the talent in Pflugerville went. And man, it was just crazy. Now that was the first time. My first year was the first time that I'd been at an offense that was throw, 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 throw. They were in that quick. This before they had the you can't sub unless we do kind of deal. And it was a deal. They'd get on ball and snap ball catch. And that's really great if it works. The only problem was if it wasn't working. I was a defensive coach, and we just okay, sit down now. So we're gonna look up third down. What? You look up the clock and maybe 15, 20 seconds are clicked off. And so, at that point I was saying, yeah, I don't know about this right here. And then like after 3 or 4 games we'd lost him, we had this guy, a little fire plug. He was so good at running back. We started handing the ball to him, all started winning. So that was when I kind of started trying. I saw some advantages of the run of the pass, but still you have to have that, especially in high school ball, you have to be able to run the ball because you can't recruit. So you have to be able to run the ball.
No, you can't recruit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got some stories, but probably won't tell those stories. Yeah, there are definitely teams that bend that as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's like that old Friday Night Lights show where they were like moving mailboxes to get people in the school district.
Man, there's a kid. I'm not going to say the schools, but there's a kid that played at one school as a freshman. He was really good. Sophomore year, really good. So all of a sudden, this school in Austin that has a really long tradition of winning.
Lake Travis.
Oh, not that. No, I said Austin. Oh, Lake Travis is in Austin, but anyway, not that one. So all of a sudden, now he had been living in almost said the name of the city, in the city where he lived in not a very, I mean, his family couldn't afford very much. Well, all of a sudden they ended up being able to afford this really nice apartment, and his mother got this job in the school district. So, hey, I guess if that works for you, but let's not kid ourselves. And what the way they're really recruiting, if you ever have a kid, keep an eye on this stuff, is like you'll send your kid to this like quarterback camp. And he's there to learn all stuff. But if the coach from that school really likes him, he goes, you could really be good. We won quite a few state championships. If you played here, you'd be a state champ. And little things like that. And then where's your mom and dad? You go shake hands with mom and dad. And then he said the same thing. He said, yeah, I'm gonna tell you something. You guys ever thought about it? I know y'all are living in Greenville or whatever. And I know y'all but I'm telling you something. If he was here, he'd be part of a state championship. And it's little subtle stuff like that. But I just don't want one. I mean, it's gone on everywhere I've coached and taught at that. You have to be careful because when you let kids go to camps, that's the possibility. Now, when I was at Florence, I can say that there, to north of us was Colleen Cove. And one of those particular districts used to do a really good job of finding kids during track meets, middle school track meets, and go up and meet them, go up and meet their parents, and doing it like that. So anyway, that stuff goes on. Anyway, Hendrickson, really good years. Man, really successful. Lots and lots of wins. Kind of had to go back to the deal about learn what buttons to push because not everybody, I got to be honest, Florence was very much a yes or no, sir. Let's get the job done. And in other schools, kids actually want to ask why. And with Coach Carter, that's what? You don't ask me why, but you kind of had to learn, okay, what buttons you got to push.
We asked why you get the whistle to the top of the helmet.
I'm just trying to get your attention. got to ring the bell. After Henderson, went to Troy for a couple of years. That was another good learning experience. That was a deal right there to where um, a lot of the coaches that had been there had been there. So the guy that was the head coach when I first went there, that was his first year, and most of the assistants had been there for a number of years, and they'd been loyal to the guy before. And a lot of them were kind of they weren't disloyal, but they were waiting to see how good is this guy really going to be, because he's not. I don't want to get washed out with him.
Yeah.
So that was, to me, that was kind of difficult, because I've always thought, loyalty is extremely important. So I left there a couple of years. After a couple of years, I said, maybe this isn't for me. And so from there, I went to Vista, and that was my last 10 years. And that's where we came up. They had a lot of the spread running game, and instead of play action pass. But then my last, gosh, it's probably the last
that's
5.
Leander ISD, right?
Mhm. My last 5 years is when the guy that's at Maynard, the OC over there, Todd Brown, we brought another guy in, and he had actually been under Coach Leach at Texas Tech, so he knew the actual run and shoot, or I guess they call it. What they call it? It wasn't run and shoot.
Air raid.
Air off. That was it. And that was when we had to sit down as coach staff and say, listen, if we're going to go to this, it's not going to tiptoe. We're going to jump in both feet. And that was when we had that conversation. Maybe third and short, we may throw it, and you just have to be okay with that. And that's when I saw, that at that part I had already kind of started changing to where you didn't have to be just mash any throws. But when I saw that, always take advantage of what they give you. If they've got 6 guys deep, we're going to run the ball. If they've got 8 guys in the box, we're going to throw the ball. So it wasn't necessarily we're going to do this regardless. It was a matter of, okay, you're gonna give us a deep ball, And the other thing was, which is weird, I was used to looking short pass to medium to long. And in this one, you always look at the deep pass first. That's why they always look at safeties, as a post. In that offense, post is like a hand. It's like 32 lead. The post or the flag, because depending on how many safeties you have, that's going to determine. And they want to throw the deep ball first every time.
I feel like we need a whiteboard behind us for some of this.
Next time we'll get a whiteboard. Oh, but it's. And
I know if my wife watches this, she's like, I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
Well, you can get a whiteboard and show her. Anyway, Vista was very, very, very good years. Had a lot of good kids. But that was, and everything was going good. And then right around the time COVID hit, education completely changed. And that's kind of like what ended up leading me to saying, okay, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore.
I think that's about the time where a lot of teachers were on the fence on if they were going to keep teaching or not.
I'm just telling you, there used to be a lot of trust given to teachers, and there was a lot of emphasis on reading, writing, arithmetic. What are the things they need to know to be successful in life? And even before COVID, there was kind of a shift in toward, things that emphasizing things that I didn't think necessarily was going to make them successful in life. But then in COVID, we had the kids that had to get on their computers, and we had a class like that. Well, they might be on there for 2 seconds, and they'd walk off, the computer's still on, so they were logged in. And so, like, nothing was getting turned in, no work was getting done, and we were basically, told, well, let's give them grace. Let's try, nobody should really fail this time. This is a really hard time in our country and stuff. Okay, whatever. And then the next year, when after half the year, the first half of the year, if I remember right, the kids were at home. The second half, everybody. Oh, that's what the first half of the year, you could come if you wanted to. After Christmas break, everybody was expected to be there, and only if you had a medical reason could you stay at home. But they had got used to sitting around doing what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking with AP and said, this is the time when we need to kind of, draw a line in the dirt and say, no, this is what it takes. If you want to get a diploma, this is what you're going to do. Well, it just wasn't happening. So I said, something, I've been around long enough. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna help try to straighten this out. But it just never seemed like they were getting back to it. It seemed like they were still trying to find ways to get kids to walk across the stage even though they didn't deserve it. That diploma wasn't really a deserved thing. It was almost like, well, I'm gonna get it anyway. And so that was one of the
kind of like the participation trophy.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And that was disappointing as a teacher, because you think that what you're doing is important, but if they give everybody a diploma, it's not.
then it's why am I wasting my time doing this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my last couple of years, I almost felt like we were babysitters. It really did. Schools went from trying to, make things challenging, make them learn the things that make successful, and it came to how do I get federal money? So I'm gonna feed them free breakfast. I'm gonna make sure I get a good roll, free lunch. Certain special education got so it's amazing how many kids all of a sudden end up on that special ed roll. And all that was about federal money. It wasn't even about teaching kids. It was about how do we get more federal money. And I think that education at that time it got lost. Now, hopefully, it's kind of gotten back to okay. Let's take a look at the kids. What do our kids in Georgetown, Texas, Florence, Texas, Hutto, Texas? What do they need to be successful?
Well, aren't they
And
still talking about like cutting not teacher, but cutting like school funding and stuff?
I don't know. That stuff when they did the whole what do you call it? Where you um, so long since I've talked about it, where you get to take your money and go whatever school you want. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah. I don't know what it's called,
I
but
can't remember what it's called, but anyway, that was really misrepresented because kids who go to public schools don't really have that. The same alignment, the same districts, the same boundaries, and the only people that get to go in there, or is it let's say the Florence High School has 300 desks. And if you used up 280, you have 20 desks. But if you used up all 300, nobody can come in. Or the ones that got the big uh, economic boost were all the private schools.
yeah.
So when I saw that happen, I said, "Wow, that was pretty disappointing to me." And I just kind of quit paying attention to it. I felt like that thing got shoved down the people of Texas' throat, and
Was
you know,
that after you decided to retire?
yeah, that was after I retired.
Oh yeah, because that was recently.
Yeah,
You've been retired for a little bit.
you know, uh, the thing that the straw that kind of broke the camel's back as far as me retiring was, my mom was getting older. I had a brother that had a lot of health issues, so I needed to be around them more. Plus, I have grandkids that are getting older. My kids kind of had, I don't want to say they got the shaft, but I was always working, and
Mhm.
they basically to spend time with me. They had to come up to work and be with me. And so, now I can spend more time with mom, my brothers, sisters, my kids, my grandkids. And so that was probably the ultimate thing. But the way that education, I felt had lost their vision and forgot why we had education. I felt like they kind of lost that. That was kind of pulling me that way anyway.
Since you brought that part up, Coach, so like I know your kids are Andrew's a little older than I am,
Hmm.
about 3 years, and then other two are a couple years younger.
Let's see. Shane is
Shannon's probably like 3.
32. Let's see.
Yeah, so like 7 years.
2092. So that makes it 23 now. No, 33.
I don't know. It's been too long.
Yeah. And then Blake is so you knew Andrew, Shane, and Blake. Blake was a little bit. He was the guy on the sideline that was always acting crazy. He's
Yeah,
probably
Shane was young too,
yeah. Shane was he would be being like a water boy on the sideline. He was always on the sideline with his
or sitting in your office.
or sitting off. But back then I had the VCR and always had some tapes they could
Yep.
plug the tapes in.
Just keep the door closed.
Oh, be so because those poor kids they were probably in my office as much as I was. But if you got to raise a kid, either raise a kid in the field house or raise a kid on the streets. I raise them in the field house. They met a bunch of really good people. A lot of the people that I knew, they know also.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing about that.
So, just about that, because like Florence, you were the head coach, athletic director, teacher, raising 3 kids.
Hmm.
Well, 2 kids because Andrew was already.
Well, he was there for the first couple of years I was there. Yeah, so yeah, that was definitely I look back at it and I wonder where I found time to do stuff at all. But you pick and choose. Um, Teaching, your head coach in football, head coach in powerlifting, assistant in track, athletic director, teacher. I guess the thing that I mean, you just spend a lot of time after hours trying to get caught up. Probably if there was any one particular one that I probably should have spent more time on was the AD part, just because I thought I did a good job, but looking back, I probably could have done better. Teaching I always thought was really important. I always thought I was a good teacher. I hope I was a good teacher, but it was always important to me to be a good teacher.
So I just had you for one class, so I can't really judge
You
that.
didn't fuck my class.
No, I just had you for one class. That was
Oh,
it.
okay. I think you felt
I think I had Miss Revis for all my other science stuff.
Oh, what a great teacher she was. She was
I love Miss Revis.
Yeah, and you know some she had a very kind of unique sense of humor, kind of sly. It's kind of a dry sense of humor. And if you didn't know it at first, you think what? But as you get to know her, you say, "Oh man, I can't believe she just said that." She was very. Oh, she had a great sense of humor. But now people, I thought a lot of the teachers at Florence were really good. What kind of caught us, nipped us in the butt was like at that time a lot of people were trying to get to Central Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and some people took a job either as a teacher or as a coach, and they were just trying to get transplanted. And then after a year, they would look to move on. So, you know, knowing that sometimes you had to hire a person, hoping that they would fall in love with the county and the city, or, but some of them just, I'm here for a year until I get a job doing something else.
Yeah, but like I know, like you're talking about Florence, a lot of those coaches are still in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it not be particularly Florence, but like just the general
Let's
Central
see.
Texas
I know
area.
that Coach Wood, Danny Wood, he was there for a long time. I don't know if he's still there or not. I didn't. I didn't.
I
I
think
guess I should have looked on the sidelines.
I think Wood was after my time. The name sounds
Uh,
familiar.
was he after your time?
Yeah, yeah, because we had it was
Coach Stanzak was there for a long time.
yep. Costanza, he was retired from there. I don't know
You
what
know,
year it
he
was.
retired for it. He was actually he and I were talking. We had there was a get together, some kind of Florence get together, and he and I were talking. And he was talking about how much he enjoyed being retired. And at that time, I just wasn't ready.
He looks so much happier now that he's retired than he was.
Yes. Oh, and some a guy that always had proper perspective.
Like I don't feel like he wants to beat me every time I see him.
No, but really, I look back and the guy had such good perspectives. There were times that I would get riled up about something. He would say, "This really isn't worth getting riled up about." Yeah, he was there for a long time. I can't think who else had been in the area.
Wellman's still in Georgetown.
Okay, I'm not. Now I saw his wife Sarah, and they said that they had a son. I think a son, maybe two kids, but they were just talking about how their son was, I think, going to middle school at this time, and he was pretty good. They said, "All right, there you go." I haven't. That's not true. There was another one of the Florence get-togethers, and I saw Coach Woman there. So I've seen Coach Woman. I guess I saw Coach Stanzak last time.
Coach Woolman's actually my next interview I'm doing.
Oh, good. Okay.
I reached out to him the other day.
You're gonna talk to Wilman and Stanzak and all of them.
I haven't talked to Coach Stanzak about it yet, but he's on my list of
What
people.
about Renault? You talk to Coach Renault?
I sent Renault a message and haven't heard anything.
You would have to do that over the phone. I guess you could drive out there.
I'll drive it out to. I think they're still in Fredericksburg area.
Yeah, you could drive out there, take the wife,
Yeah,
make a honeymoon out of it.
he hasn't responded yet. He was actually one of my first ones I sent a message to.
I'm trying to think who else. Who else was coaches when you were there?
Futural. Last time I talked to him,
Futural was in Georgetown last time I saw him, but I don't think he's coaching
anymore. I mean, I wouldn't imagine he would be.
He no, I'm not sure he's in education at all. I talked to him. I think it might have been. I was thinking coaching school, but no, because I think he got out. I saw he and Danny Wood, which is after you, but they become pretty good friends. And I think Future was saying he was going to get out because all of his kids were out, and he was just ready to do something else. That's the thing about coaches. When you've kind of lost that hunger for it, it's time to get out because you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah, because once you don't have I don't want to say strength to do it, but the will to want to do it, it's got to be a drag.
It takes so much energy, so much time, so much passion, and it does. It wears you down. It's amazing how many coaches you see,
especially something like football, because that's like you got the season, then you got off season, then you got spring, and then then it starts again in the summer.
Toward the end, another thing that kind of made me take a look at whether I want to stay anymore was I was looking around at guys I know were dying for no reason. You know what? A guy I know who went to his mom's funeral, and as he was walking across, he dropped dead right there at his mom's funeral. There's another guy I coached with at Vista just the other day. He was having a hard time breathing, and he's got an enlarged heart due to stress and stuff like that. So it is it's a tough gig. And it physically takes it out, and you kind of have to have somebody that you trust watching and saying, "Hey," because one of the things that nobody told me, but I could just tell my last couple of years at Vista something just wasn't right. Physically something just wasn't right. And when I retired, I said one thing I'm doing is I'm getting my health back, and I work out a lot now, and and I changed my diet. I try to become healthier. So yeah, all those guys still in coaching, man. Take care of yourself because it'll sneak up on you.
This concludes part one of our conversation with Coach Carter. Please join us next week for part two, and remember to check out our Instagram page at Catching Up with Joe Howe for more details. Until then, I'm Joe, and thanks for catching up with me.